guys, this is Jordan with Cairn Outdoor Guides, and with me I have special guest Josh Miller, otherwise known as Primal Flow. Josh, if you want to start off, just tell us a little bit about you, what you do.
Yeah, so I moved to Boulder about 3 years ago. I loved running in the mountains and loved ultra running, so I decided to just, like a lot of people, just quit my job and move to Boulder, and I tried my best to stay in the mountains as much as I could. So that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years, is just running the mountains, running ultras, just meeting people, now giving people tours to kind of show my love of the mountains and kind of share my knowledge.
Awesome.
It really just revolves around the mountains.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, what exactly is an ultra runner? What is that?
Yeah, so ultra running is anything over 26.2 miles, which is a marathon. So so they typically go 50K, 50 mile, 100K, 100 mile. But I really call it ultra 50 mile or above.
Okay, no, makes sense. And how did you? Because that's a lot of miles. You know what I mean? Like, I would think that has some type of build up to it. Like, you don't just wake up one day and just you know what? I'm gonna run 50 miles. Like, that doesn't really seem like the process. So how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, I'm kind of my inspiration behind why I did it. So I've always kind of hated running up until probably about 5 years ago. But I went through a lot of stuff in my past, and I actually got sober from drugs and alcohol, and running was a way that I could initially kind of purge out all that negativity and all that anger and anxiety that built up. And then after probably about 6 months to a year of doing it, I actually fell in love with it. And after all those negative emotions came out, I kind of just started doing it as something that I love. And you'll find that a lot in ultra running. There's a lot of people that run out their demons in there.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I actually think it's kind of cheating too, because for me, I have all this stuff that I'm able to use as fuel, but other people don't have that. So it's is it cheating that I went through all this stuff or no? But that's where it all came from, was kind of as a way just to purge my body, and then I just fell in love with it.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Wow. I'm not a runner. We talked about doing a 14er, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to run this thing. You can run as many times as you want, and I will probably keep up with you, but running really hasn't been my thing. Some of those people that are maybe getting introduced to the sport, just whether it's trail running, ultra, what have you, what do you feel there are some really common things, or some things that they definitely want to know, whether it's getting started, recovery,
just first and foremost, if you're not having fun while you're doing it, then don't do it. Because that's what a lot of people get into, is when they first start running, they're like, ooh, I have to do this, or I have to win this race, or I have to go here or do this. But if you're not having fun when you're doing it, you're just going to put yourself in a hole. So I would say to first, every time you run, be like, am I having fun right now? And of course, there's going to be those days when you're not having fun, but just make sure. And
that's with anything.
So just make sure and love what you're doing. But also, second, I would say to kind of get organized. So if you do plan on running a race or something, get a coach. There are a lot of coaches around here. There's a lot of good coaches. Because I know when I tried to run races before without a coach, you just end up murdering yourself, especially for an ultra. So I would say if you're starting off, first, make sure that you love doing what you're doing, even with the hard days. And second, I would say get a coach. And third is get ingrained in the community. Especially here in Boulder, the running community is huge, and people can help you with long runs or tips or tricks, or this or that. So those would probably be the three things that I'd say to start when you're beginning.
Nice. And when you're looking for a coach, what are maybe if you aren't as ingrained in the running community as maybe yourself, what do you think are some things that somebody maybe want to look out for, a coach that fits them, or what? What's that look like?
Yeah, especially here in Boulder, since there's road running, there's track running, there's trail running, there's ultra running. So I would definitely find a coach that specializes in the type of running that you're doing, because like me doing ultras, I would never be coached by a track coach because they might make me faster, but they're not going to understand the elevation profile, the nutrition aspect. So I would say do that, and then secondly, I would say just get ingrained in the community and then ask around. Because around here in Boulder, there's a lot of coaches, but there's probably only 2 or 3 that a lot of people use because they're like the best.
Gotcha.
So I would say first find a coach that fits the type of running you're doing, and secondly, just ask around and figure out who's the best for you, pretty much.
Yeah. And you as like a Cairn guide, you offer like a pretty wide variety of like different runs and stuff like that to kind of meet people like where they're at. Like, can you maybe just briefly give us a synopsis of kind of what it's like when someone reaches out to you and wants to go run with you?
Yeah. So first I'll send out a survey pretty much, which will kind of determine what the person is looking for, what their experience is. Because here in Boulder, since it is at elevation, it doesn't affect as much as hiking, even though it does affect, of course. But for running, it really affects. So I try and balance out what people want with what they're going to have fun doing. So of course you want to struggle and push yourself, but you don't want to be dead when you get to the top of a mountain. So I try and make sure and pick runs or locations or just different areas where I can take people to where that balance of what they want to see with their other exertion level. And that could go anywhere from Mount Sanitas, which is a relatively short run, up to the Boulder Skyline Traverse, which goes across every peak in Boulder, which would take probably 4 or 5 hours to do.
Yeah, I've thought of hiking that a time or two, and then I don't know, I like get up to like one of the peaks and just kind of like awestruck, and then I'm just kind of like riding this high down.
Yeah.
I've never completed quite the whole thing, but it's been on the to-do list, so maybe one of those days.
Yeah,
very cool.
Turn left and see all the peaks you have to do, and you're like, nah. It's not really that.
I actually ran into a couple folks. I think they were from Belgium the other day. I was hiking Green Mountain, and they were doing everything like that. And one of those pretty, just special days where it's kind of crisp out, real beautiful, like snowy peaks and stuff like that. But like that was like one of their first stops, and I was just kind of like, wow. Like,
from Belgium too.
Yeah, right. That's right. They were definitely going for it, which was cool though. I mean, they kind of the older folks. They actually got a really cool picture of me and Mac that I've been wanting to post. But awesome. What are some other things maybe that you can think of that maybe somebody would want to know if they're getting introduced to the sport or trying to find a coach or something that maybe makes you unique in terms of like a ultra runner?
Yeah. So I'd say especially for ultra running, if you're wanting to race, kind of something that I'm proud of is that I'm not some super skinny, lanky guy who ran in college, and I'm probably the exact opposite. I didn't run in college. I have quite a bit of muscle on me, so it's about finding kind of your unique type of runner that you are and kind of using that to your advantage. So being really strategic. So I know with how I am, I have to run really mountainous races, and I can kind of get ahead of the people that might not be able to have the durability to get over those things. And then of course everybody's different. So it's all about really just being in tune with your body and finding out what type of runner you are. And even if you're not the best runner, you can find a way to be the best by using what you have in a smart way. So,
nice.
I would say definitely find out what type of unique runner you are and use that to your advantage.
Gotcha. I've always been a sprinter. I'll get about 100 meters and I'm done. Well, cool. And then also about being smart, is there any maybe like nutrition tips or like recovery tips that maybe you have for people that, again, because I know, stretching after I'm hiking is always like, what I do so that I'm not super sore the next day or anything like that. But is there anything that you would recommend to folks to kind of help as they're kind of getting into this or to help kind of support and like prevent injuries and anything like that?
No, definitely. And especially with ultra running, like recovery is beyond important. With like the type of personality I have when I first started running, I just kind of ran myself into the ground and thought, oh my gosh, if I have a rest day, I'm gonna get slower. But like utilize those rest days like at least once or twice a week is what I have. And it's okay to have normal slow runs. Every single run doesn't have to be some crazy fast run. So one of the things I would say is embrace recovery, embrace slowing down. And second, I would say, you had mentioned nutrition. Runs I'd say 2 hours or longer, you always want to have about double the calories that you weigh every hour. So I weigh about 170.
Okay.
And so I try and eat around 300 calories an hour. And of course, you don't have to do that, but I do it just so that I can keep going. Because the longer you run, the less you're going to be able to eat because you're just going to get burnt down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, especially in the first 1, 2, 3 hours, I try and eat 300 calories an hour or 200. And embrace liquid food too. So I'm not sure if anybody's heard of Tailwind or Perpetuum, but if you can't eat, then bring along Tailwind or some other type of food supplement so that you can still get those calories. Because if you can't eat and you still have to run, then you're then you're messed up because you can't swallow. So I would make sure and bring a backup of some kind of powder calories as well. So yeah, I would say first would be embrace recovery, and 2, not only eat enough but test out food. So when you're on a long run, bring a variety of different types of food and figure out what works for you. Because if you're on a long tour with me for 3 to 5 hours and you haven't tried out a certain type of food, when you're running that long, your stomach isn't working the same way. Because blood is being put to other parts of your body, so you might not digest it correctly. So it's all about testing, like, do gels work for me? Does bacon work for me? Does this work for me?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something that I haven't necessarily thought about, how different food and what they're composed of, how that impacts you. Because I mostly do backpacking, hiking, and I kind of what foods just in general work well with me. Whether it's 2 miles, 20 miles, whatever. It's pretty much the same, but. I mean, when you're going at kind of a more intense race, your heart rate's up and stuff like that, I never thought of that. That's really interesting. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, because your body processes food completely differently. So me, I know that bacon works for me, but that's because I tested it out, time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not only eat enough, but iterate and test things and figure out what works best. Because like me, I could go through 10 gels every 2 hours probably because I just burn through those things. So I know not to bring gels. But yeah, so embrace recovery, eat enough, and experiment with food.
Nice.
I would say were the first 3 things.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned races. Do you have any races coming up, or do you have any kind of adventures that are on your to-do list that you're really looking forward to?
Yeah. So a lot of people I know, they always sign up for a race, they plan their whole year out. Ooh, I'm going to do this race, I'm going to do this race, I'm going to do this race.
Yeah.
But this is another tip too, is that you don't always have to do that. You could pick a race and see how you feel after that race. And if you're signed up for a 50 miler and then a 100 miler, you do the 50 miler and you feel horrible, you might feel forced to do the 100 miler, and then you might start, kind of resenting running. So I did choose my races. I chose, I have Spitfire 50K, April 21st, up in Idaho. It's actually a race around a volcano, which would be pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
have you ever done that before? Ever raced around a volcano?
No.
Hawaii or anything?
No, but I was kind of hoping that it would be a little active just to add that excitement.
Yeah.
But it's of course not active.
You can still pretend. You can still.
Yeah.
There's a time where I was out hiking and we pretended we were in Jurassic Park the whole time, so it was cool. It was just a real rainy day and everything like that. And we were just hilarious. It's oh, T-Rex would come around here and we run. So.
All it takes is imagination.
Yeah. Exactly.
Every pizza is a personal pizza as long as you believe in yourself.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah. So I have Spitfire 50K at the end of April. I have Scout Mountain the beginning of June, which is a 50 miler in Idaho. And then my A big race is called UTE 100. It's a 100 miler in Moab. So that's my A race. So all those other 2 are just kind of building up to that. So that's my next year, and I might do one and change my mind after the other ones, but those are the 3.
Okay, Josh, and as a courtesy to any of our special guests, we always make tea for these folks, and we like to read the little fun messages that are on there. Mine says, develop the power of listening. I feel like I've done quite a bit of that already.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Mine says, you are unlimited.
You are unlimited.
Yeah, which makes me feel pretty good.
Deep. Do you feel unlimited?
I mean, in a non-narcissistic way, yes. Because nothing is impossible, so that's kind of how I look at it.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, I'm just going to wrap up this interview with one more question, and that is, what are the outdoors for you?
So to me, specifically, the outdoors are kind of like a church, kind of like my sanctuary. It's like all that we have left on this earth that isn't, messed up or touched by man for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like my sanctuary. Like once I get under the trees or in the mountains, my whole mindset changes, and it's like I'm like going deep inside me. And
kind of
she
feels that.
Yeah, she totally agrees with it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely my sanctuary and my place that I go to. I go in. Well, I go out to go in. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like that. Well, awesome. Well, thanks again, Josh, for coming by and chatting with us and giving all this awesome information about running and nutrition, all this stuff. This has been incredible, quite frankly, and so I really appreciate you coming by. For those of you folks that want to sign up with Josh, you can reach him on our website, www.cairnguides.com. He's also on our mobile app, Cairn Guides, where you can get to run with Josh. He's obviously a very friendly, very knowledgeable person. That's you can have a lot of fun getting out there, whether you're a beginner, advanced, what have you. Great person to enjoy the outdoors with. So I highly recommend you find him there. He's also can be found on Instagram at primal_flow, correct? Yep. And so otherwise, guys, thanks again for tuning in, and look forward to another podcast next week.